If you've watched my videos on what makes a serious shaman, you will know that I'm a serious shaman. I am not a sorcerer, although I could have been. And we're going to talk about that today in today's episode. Also, we're going to figure out what the difference is between a shaman and a sorcerer. Actually, I lied. We're not going to figure it out. It's already been figured out. I'm just going to tell you the difference. Why wonder? Why worry? If you want to know the difference between a shaman and a sorcerer, stick around for today's episode of the Shaman Patrick Show. But why delay? Let's go. There's nothing wrong with being a sorcerer. I mean, some of the most lovely people in the world engage in sorcery. Politicians do it, pop stars do it, a lot of people engage in sorcery. They don't really know it's sorcery, but this video in particular deals with how to tell the difference between a shaman and a sorcerer. There might be some times when you want to go to a sorcerer. I'm not going to fuck around with that shit here. Like there are people who sometimes feel like they're powerless or they're weak. They need some magic. They need some spell. They need some sorcery. And sorcery has its time and place. So this is not about denigrating a sorcerer at all. Sorcerer's got a sorcerer, right? Witch has got a witch. You know, I'm not judging people for the path that they're on. I mean, some people think that I'm a sorcerer. Many people have sensed sorcerer elements within me, and I get it. Like, I'm going to go into a little bit of my story in between these slides today, and and why many shamans in America choose the path of sorcery. Why many of them find sorcery is a more attractive path. But for people who are called to the shamanic path, they will encounter sorcery. I myself have met many sorcerers who tried to convince me to become a sorcerer right along with them. Oh, does this sound crazy or weird or fantastical to you? Oh, there's a whole hidden world of magic underneath all of this stuff. Many of us just kind of stumble into it. Some of us are born into it, but it's natural. It's normal. It's commonplace. Just so nobody talks about it. Or when people do talk about it, they get labeled as crazy or whatever. And I think that's a little bit of sorcery too, so that normal people don't get involved in this stuff. It's not for everybody. Sorcery is not for everybody. Shamanism is not for everybody. It's not for pussies. It's not. But if you want to know more about the difference between a shaman and a sorcerer, listen up. I'm not judging people at all. All right? So if you're a sorcerer, listen up. We may not be able to be friends. We may be on somewhat opposing sides. But I love you, man. I love you. Primarily, we'll also be dealing with male shamans and male sorcerers. I don't want to leave my women out, but I will speak to male shamanism and male sorcery here. All right? So I know a lot of women watch my content, but there are differences. Not many, but a few. Okay, so let's get started with today's presentation. Shamans versus Sorcerers, a modern guide for spiritual discernment. While both shamans and sorcerers appear to tap into what many would consider supernatural or metaphysical realms, the differences between them are stark and important. This isn't just semantics. It's a matter of intention, method, and impact. If you're on a spiritual path, you need to know the difference. You need to know the difference if you're on a spiritual path. Because if you want to see a shaman, you want to see a shaman for specific things, right? If you want to see a sorcerer, you want to see a sorcerer for specific things, right? But how do you know when you're needing a sorcerer or when you're needing a shaman? How do you know that? And there's the phenomenon of sorcerers pretending to be shamans, because being a sorcerer is kind of frowned upon. It's kind of like being a narcissist. A narcissist doesn't want to be known as a narcissist. They just want to keep doing the narcissism. They just want to keep getting away with it. But I don't judge narcissists and I don't judge sorcerers. Both of them have their role in the creation of a spiritual warrior, if you know what I mean. Since the overarching goal of spiritual progression is morality, modern shamans will focus on treating people and the world around them better. A shaman will be focused on healthy bodies and minds and treating the physical vessel as a temple. Progress, not perfection. And I want to start there because, you know, in shamanism, we work with spirits. And one of the things that we do in concrete shamanism is we use the Spirits book by Allan Kardec as a basis for how we work with spirits. Concrete shamanism is not spiritism, but it's the same thing in concrete shamanism. So let's go over to the original version of the Spirits book. We are going to publish an original version of the Spirits book, because I have an edited, poorly laid out version of the Spirits book, and I don't like it. I like the OG text. So we're probably going to release a version of this in the original text, as original as possible, with the same cover. I think we're going to call it the Spirits book 1875, the 1875 version. So if you're interested in something like that, keep an eye out on it, because I like original texts. There's never been a better book written about spirits since 1857. Isn't that cool? So, you know, moving to this book, I'm going to need my glasses for this one. There we go. I want to talk about the progression of spirits and how spirits are neither good nor bad by nature. They're the same spirits made better through their own efforts. Some spirits created good and others created bad. The spirits say God has created all spirits in a state of simplicity and ignorance, that is to say, without knowledge. He has given to each one of them a mission with a view to enlighten them and to make them gradually arrive at perfection through the knowledge of the truth, and thus to bring them nearer and nearer to himself. This perfection is, for them, the condition of eternal and unalloyed happiness. Spirits acquire knowledge by passing through the trials imposed on them by God. Some of them accept these trials with submission and arrive more quickly at the aim of their destiny. Others undergo them with murmuring and thus remain, through their own fault, at a distance from the perfection and the felicity promised to them. According to this statement, it would appear that spirits at their origin are like children, ignorant and without experience, but acquiring little by little the knowledge which they lack by passing through the different phases of human life. The comparison is correct. The child, if rebellious, remains ignorant and faulty. If he profits more or less according to his docility, but the life of a man has a term, whereas that of spirits stretches out into infinity. So I'm reading that little bit to let you know that there is a progression towards morality, especially in spiritual growth and development. So like, let me say it this way. Morality is the goal. Like, being a good person is the goal. And so sorcerers, which you will see later in this presentation, are not really focused on being good people. And so the path of sorcery is difficult. It's more difficult. But without the sorcerers, the shaman really would not have much to do. Shamanism and sorcery are a lot alike, if not almost the same, except for the purpose and how it all comes about. And I'm going to try to be as clear as I can in this, because not only have I done research on this, I'm talking about my lived experience here too. And I think that both are valuable in this regard. But I do want to define shamans first. Now, here's what shamans are all about. They are the healers of the collective. Shamans are spiritual specialists who serve their communities. They work with the spirit world, not for fame, riches, or personal gain, but to heal, to restore balance, and to help people return to wholeness. A true shaman focuses first on their own healing, because you cannot guide others into the light if you're still dragging around your own shadows. And I know the material says true shaman, and I want to really focus on serious shaman. So a serious shaman will be focused on and doing these things: healing, shadow work, restoring harmony. Their motivation will be service to others and inner transformation. Their power source, where they get their power, will come from ancestors, nature, spirits, and divine guidance. The methods will be trance journeys, sober ritual work, spiritual dialogue, talking to spirits, channeling spirits. Their lifestyle is often solitary, devoted to study, observation, and spiritual refinement. Cultural integrity, they typically use tools and teachings from their own lineage or culture, not stolen from others. So that's why you'll see me in a black tank top and jeans and not wearing a headdress or you won't see me doing any of that because that's not my culture. So a shaman is not going to use things that are not their culture. But Patrick, I see shamanic practitioners doing this stuff all the time. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm a shaman. I'm a serious shaman. So I can't really do that. I was born from the culture that I'm in. You're more likely to see me using a Madonna song or a Prince song or a Nine Inch Nails song in my rituals. You might see me in a NIN t-shirt as my costume. You might see me talking about Jesus or Satan in our mythologies here in the West. You won't hear me talking too much about what they're doing in Mongolia or what they did in Native American shamanism or anything like that. A shaman is born of the culture that they are in. And I think that's very important, for shamans in America. We are born of this culture. We're at this point, we don't have a lineage. Like shamans in America right now might be the first of their physical lineages in America. Just because there's no role for the shaman in America today doesn't mean there's not going to be one in the future. I mean, whether people like it or not, there are shamans in America. I know several of them. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. All right, sobriety. Shamans are usually sober. Plant medicines may be used rarely and intentionally, not habitually. A healed person doesn't want to dominate others or manipulate the world. They want to live in alignment with it. A shaman helps people reach that healed place so they can make choices from truth, not trauma. Let me say that again. A shaman helps people reach that healed place so they can make choices from truth, not trauma. I'm really into helping people realize the truth. Like I may not be able to tell the truth to people because I don't want to upset people. I don't want to anger people. I don't want to offend people. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I encourage people to find out the truth from themselves so that they can make decisions from that true place, who they truly are. You'll see most of our work is about ego, shadow work, helping people remove the falseness to act out of their true self. That's what a shaman will do. A shaman will encourage you to believe what you want to believe. Have your own opinions, even if they're wrong. But please seek the truth. Seek the truth. Now I want to talk about sorcerers. And I know a lot about sorcerers, but I love them. I love them so much. So let's see. Sorcerers, the power-hungry manipulators. And I mean that in a nice way. I mean, powerless people seek external power. Makes sense, right? Sorcerers feel kind of powerless, and that's okay. So sorcerers, by contrast, are focused on personal gain, power, wealth, sex, attention, revenge. These are the typical goals. Some sorcerers know what they are. Others think they're shamans, but in truth, they're just wounded egos playing dress up in a ceremony they invented. Sound like anybody you know? Sound like anybody you know? All right. So the focus of the sorcerer will be power, domination, manipulation, often revenge. Motivation, selfishness, egoic control, unresolved wounds. Their power source will be shadow spirits, occult forces, energetic manipulation. Their methods will include spell work, enchantment, trauma bonding, drug-fueled ceremonies. Let me talk about these methods right here. These are really important to know the methods of a sorcerer. So when we talk about spell work, enchantment, trauma bonding, you'll see this like, let's say you force somebody to go through a traumatic experience with you. Let's say it's like an extreme sweat lodge thing, or it's like any extreme traumatic experience that will bond you with another person. They might gaslight you and say they're doing it for your own good. Lots of mind fuckery with a sorcerer. And also those drug fueled ceremonies. Like if a shaman or anybody invites you to take place in a mushroom ceremony or a god bomb ceremony or ketamine ceremonies or what have you, those are rare things. You don't know what you're messing with. Like, you got to be trained. I don't think anybody has been traditionally trained in the use of leading a ketamine ceremony, because ketamine has not been around that long. Let me look that up. I might edit this out. When was ketamine released? If it was released, I think 200 years ago would be enough time for a lineage to form. When was ketamine invented? Let's see. Ketamine was first synthesized in 1962. Shit, honey, there ain't been enough time for there to be enough of a lineage to be able to do a ketamine ceremony. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. So I'm talking about if there are drug ceremonies, the whatever substance they're using will have been used for decades, for centuries. It'll be passed down through generations. I don't see a whole lot of people in America using that type of thing, or even being able to use that type of thing. I knew of one shaman in Kentucky who had permission to use ayahuasca with people, and he learned it from somewhere. I'm not even going to be specific about it, but he brought it to Kentucky. He's no longer with us. He died, but that's the only person that I have known, seen, laid eyes on, communicated with his organization briefly with to see what it was all about. And that's as far as I know, but it was also ayahuasca. It wasn't ketamine, mushrooms, meth, Xanax. Let's have a Xanax ceremony. Why don't we? But I've seen people use meth ceremonially. Sorcerers, like one sorcerer told me that meth was an occult secret, and I saw that motherfucker go insane. I saw him go insane. A shaman from another state came to Chicago to save me from this motherfucker, man, I fell into a nest of sorcerers in Chicago. I sure as fuck did. But they were all taken over by these evil spirits. It was wild. Maybe someday I should write a book about that whole experience. But that's why I'm very suspicious of people who feed drugs and do things. Those poor people. All right, so moving on. Lifestyle. The lifestyle of a sorcerer will be addicted to shortcuts, spiritual bypassing, possibly running a cult or fan base. And let me talk about some of these sorcerers that I knew. They were interested in having students, and they talked about their students. And one guy in particular had lots of students around him, and he was always talking about his students, and he always had like a woman and a boy, or a girl and a boy. I mean, adult girl and boy, but a young girl and a young boy. And he had them around them. And it was always this air of it was very culty. And some of his is just very, very, very strange. But, he claimed that he was a shaman, and I thought that that's what he was doing. And I quickly found out that that's not what he was doing. I learned it the hard way. But he managed to convince me to do things that I can't even talk about. There was also an element of witchcraft and sorcery in the sobriety and the recovery community in Chicago as well, which I'm not going to talk about, but it is kind of everywhere. But also the sorcerers will engage with cultural appropriation. This is common tools and rituals are often lifted from other cultures without context or respect. So contrast that with a shaman who knows that the tools and customs from other cultures will not work. A sorcerer will adopt these things and sort of celebrate. They might start using Hawaiian words, or they might start using Native American words, or they might start using all sorts of things from other cultures. Here, let me put on a headdress. Let me do this. Let me do that. But a shaman in America would be more like, come on, Vogue. Let your body move to the music. That's what a shaman from America would do. But a sorcerer might go, I bring forth the ancient wisdom of the Hawaiian gods and goddesses. I'm not from Hawaii. I'm not fucking with Hawaiian gods and goddesses. Oh God, no. So you can tell right away if somebody is a shaman or a sorcerer. Are they using things from their culture? Even if it's an American culture, even if it doesn't look like traditional shamanism, because we're not going to engage in that kind of fakery. We're not going to engage in that at all. So the sorcerer will use drugs. Here's a big clue, y'all. I don't know. I've been slowly introducing this concept to you guys. Some of you already knew it right off the bat. But a shaman is gonna be sober, largely, mostly. I mean, I drink coffee and I vape. That's as close to mood altering substances that I do. I don't even like taking drugs. Like, I got a headache right now. I don't really want to take a Tylenol for it. I try to avoid drugs when I can, because I know the damaging effects of drugs. I know the value of a sleep schedule. I know the effects of being undisciplined in mind, body, and spirit. So a shaman is probably almost 99%, 100% will be sober and not fuck with drugs at all. Many shamans in America will have been drug addicts, so they're going to stay away from this shit like the plague. But a sorcerer, come on, man. Let's have a party ceremony. Let's all get together and have sex and get real high and talk to a goddess, yo. I mean, the little group of sorcerers that I was in, they thought they were fucking with Lilith. They were trying to bring Lilith in and do all this other kind of cockamamie crazy shit. You really want to fuck with Lilith? Really? You really want to do that? I mean, I saw firsthand what she did to those little sorcerers and sorcerettes that were fucking with that kind of shit. So have fun with that. But it's usually, they were all on drugs, all doing drugs, all high about just drugs, laughing and thinking that they were doing something cool. Subjugated by spirits, I swear to God, subjugated by spirits. So they will use these drugs to open participants in ways that bypass consent. And I'm going to get more into that later on, but if I don't take drugs from a stranger. Don't take drugs from a stranger. Get that in your head. If you want a song stuck in your head, get that. Don't take drugs from people you don't know. Don't take drugs from people, period. I can't believe I live in an age where I have to say, some of these sorcerers are hot, man. I'm telling you, some of these sorcerers are really sexy, really hot. And sometimes they'll use that and they'll give people drugs and they'll be, oh yeah, well, I need to sexual heal you, or I need to open your root chakra by sticking my dick in you. Like, that's what we're talking about. Drugs make people suggestible, so just stay the fuck away from it. Unless that's what you're looking for. unless that's what you want. I mean, I've seen footage. I know people are looking for that kind of freaky deaky stuff. So sorcery is real. Politicians, pop stars, tech moguls, and actors have long employed sorcerers to get what they want. The rewards appear great, but ultimately a Faustian bargain. Momentary gains, long-term spiritual debt. And yeah, I know of people who have consulted sorcerers. I know this, but it doesn't really get people what they really want out of life. Like we said this on the live stream this morning, you know, somebody can have a lot of money and they look like they're doing okay. But if you spend any time around them, they are nervous. They're scared. They've got the money. They're scared of losing the money. They hoard it. They're scared. They think other people want their money. It makes them paranoid and weird. No. Is that winning? Is that success? Probably not. So using a sorcerer to get what you want may look like you're getting what you want, but it often fails to address what you really want. Peace of mind is priceless, yo, but you don't get peace of mind through sorcery. You just don't. It's not how it works. So let's look at these key differences at a glance. Look, we have a lovely chart over here, a lovely chart for all of your needs. You could use this as a cheat sheet. If you're ever out in nature and you come across somebody and you ask yourself, is this person a shaman or is this person a sorcerer? So over here we have the traits and we have shaman and sorcerer. Feel free to screenshot this if you want. Here, I'll do a little face. If you screenshot it now. All right, so here's the key differences at a glance. The trait, intent to heal and restore, for a shaman sorcerer to dominate and control. Power source, spirits, ancestors, and nature. Sorcerer, occult forces and personal will. Trait, drug use. In the shaman, it'll be rare or absent. And the sorcerer, frequent and central. The trait, community role. Shaman, servant and healer. The sorcerer is an outsider or manipulator. Ceremonies, grounded in lineage, which may not always be possible in America, but we will be as grounded in our lineage as we possibly can, even if we're the first in our lineage. Look, every shamanic lineage had to start somewhere. It should be no different in America. Many of us, I mean, I know that I'm probably the first in my lineage. I probably am. I don't know if there's going to be any more in my lineage, but who knows? Merrick might carry the lineage forward after I die. Maybe some of you out there, maybe I'll teach you the ways of concrete shamanism. I don't know. I have no way of knowing, but I don't think it's fair to expect Americans or those of us in the West who have come from hard and fast lineages. Maybe we're the first of our lineage. I definitely know that that's been the case in me. And I'm not saying I wanted it to be that way. Do you think I wanted it that way? I used to beat down the doors of shamans and shaman practitioners. I'm like, please accept me into your lineage. I need a lineage. And most of them said, you're on your own, buddy. You're on your own. And it's not pretty and it's not fun. So let's go on to this. Their ceremonies will be grounded in lineage. So in a way, our ceremonies come from the culture. So in some ways they are grounded in our lineage, and the sorcerer often invented or appropriated. So they, like I said in a previous video, a sorcerer will say, I'm going to invent a ceremony to get all of these women naked. And I'm going to say it's a releasing hang-ups about sex, getting people to be more sexually free, but it will conveniently end up with me having sex with all of these ladies. That's an invented ceremony. An invented ceremony would be, there would be an end goal to that. There would be an end goal for that ceremony, usually based on some sort of personal gain, or even a ceremony to make money, and to And for that, they don't care about anything else. They'll be like, okay, gather together. We're going to have a ceremony. Put your $500 in the hat. Leave a love gift offering over there. Oh, okay, we're doing a ceremony. Have a good day. So that would be an invented ceremony. For a shaman, it would be, this ceremony is to heal you from this or to get rid of that spirit. It's the focus of a particular ceremony, and I don't invent them. They're just here. And also the views of others. A shaman protects and supports, and a sorcerer uses and exploits. Thank you to the sponsor of this video, The Machinations of Ego. It is our new book out now. It isn't a book, it's just an ego exorcism. If you're ready to break free from drama, self-sabotage, and performative spirituality, this book will change your life. Get it, read it, wake the fuck up. Available now on concreteshamans.com. There can be a dangerous blurring of shamans and sorcerers. In America, there could be people who are shamans, but they're engaging in sorcery. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. In our modern world, there's no natural role for the shaman. Many who could be shamans instead fall into sorcery. Why? Because sorcery offers quick results. It flatters the ego, and it often pays better. Many people using sorcery don't even know that's what they're doing. They think they're light workers or shamans because they have sage and wear beads. But if they're manipulating others, using drugs as spiritual tools, or inventing new rituals every week, it's likely they're in sorcery territory. A shaman may improvise during aspects of their work, but it is unlikely they will have public ceremonies where others are invited, or where strangers are encouraged to take drugs or to be naked or partially clothed. So I myself have been invited to these circles and these parties and these ceremonies. And I'm suspicious of that because if it's a sacred ceremony, there's really no room for a newcomer. Why are you trying to onboard new people into your group or your coven or what's going on? You know, I've had friends, more recently a family member who succumbed to this sort of thing. There's a promise of drugs for healing. There's a promise of sex or sexuality. Some of these things are billed as clothing optional, which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but if you're into that sort of thing, go right ahead. But often these things are fronts for sorcerers to, how do I say this? Get their claws in you. So if somebody invites you to a ceremony and you're like, what's a ceremony for what? All right. What gods are we worshiping? What's going to go down here? Do you have sex with the other people in the group? Is this just one big orgy? If you and here's the thing, if you want to have an orgy, go have an orgy. But there's something about the manipulation, the seduction, the tricking people that sorcerers love. Now there might be exceptions to this. I'm talking about drugs and nudity, and stuff like that. There might be exceptions to this, but it would be negotiated heavily and not taken lightly. A shaman would want to avoid any hints of impropriety and be responsible for the safety of all involved, whereas a sorcerer might throw caution to the wind and not care who gets hurt. So let me talk a little bit about this. So let's deal with nudity and sexuality. I think I get into this later in this presentation. Hold on. Yeah, I do. I want to save that. But no, let me bring this up now. There, a couple times. One time I started this, and then it worked really well for this one guy. But I'm a gay man. I'm a gay shaman, and I was working with a straight man who had severe issues with his self-image and his body. So what I had him do was I turned away, and I had a full-length mirror. I turned away. I didn't see anything. And I had him stripped naked in front of this mirror, and he looked at each of his body parts, and he said, I love this part of me. I love this part of me. And I told him which parts to touch and say, I love. He got dressed. He felt better. So that's what I'm talking about, negotiating heavily with the person that you're working with, and also avoiding any hints of impropriety. I put him in front of a mirror where he could see that my back was turned and that I wasn't there to ogle him or look at him. And one of the funny things is, early in my work, I used to get accused of pretending to be a shaman to get guys naked. And I've said this before, but if you live in Chicago, you could get any guy naked that you want. They got apps. I mean, I had a neighbor upstairs who was always down for anything. I mean, to become a shaman, in order to get people naked, is not what it's about. I have no care. I've seen more penises than I care to see. I've seen so many penises. There's probably just penises burned on the back of my retinas. I don't care about seeing people naked, especially guys. But for the safety and to just disallow any hints of impropriety, I don't do that kind of stuff anymore. But when somebody is doing that kind of stuff, they do it for specific purposes. This is for you to be more comfortable in your skin and learn how to love your body. A shaman will know when to do that, when appropriate, but they also care about the safety, and they also want to avoid any hints of impropriety. They don't want to get caught having sex with the people that they're trying to help. A shaman is genuinely going to really work towards that, having that impeccability. All right, so there is a path of redemption for the sorcerer. There really, really is. So if you're a sorcerer, if you've figured out that you're a sorcerer, let's figure out how to make you a shaman. Let's figure out how to take you from the path of sorcery and into the path of shamanism. So there is a way out. A sorcerer can be broken open by the spirits through illness, addiction, or spiritual attack, and shown the harm they've caused. If they truly take accountability, they may be given the opportunity to become a shaman, but they cannot choose it on their own. It must be granted. Sorcery is ego-driven. Shamanism is ego-dismantled. The benefit of a former sorcerer becoming a shaman is immense. They know the tricks, the manipulation tactics, and the spiritual predators. They become powerful allies for healing what they once helped perpetuate. So yeah, I've had opportunities to become a sorcerer. I mean, sorcerers were very, very interested in getting baby shamans. Sorcerers love baby shamans because if they can get them on the path of sorcery, they'll have more followers. They'll get more power, because in some ways they steal that baby shaman's power. In a way, they do. They veer them from their path. So I did kind of briefly go into a path of what it would be like to be a sorcerer. I really did. Like, I was using drugs. I was doing that kind of stuff. But I was broken open by the spirits. The spirits actually saved me from a life of sorcery. It could have happened to me. I don't think it really could have happened. But I think that, Merrick and I were going through this stuff in Chicago. And later on, we realized it was to see those tricks, to see that manipulation, so that we could help prevent other people from being caught up in it. Like, if you want to talk to us about our adventures in Chicago, dealing with black magic and sorcerers and witches and all that kind of stuff, maybe someday. But for right now, know that we've had our dalliances with sorcery and sorcerers, and we've discovered it's not a good path. Not for us, not really for anybody. But I love my sorcerers because they show me where I have more work to do. That's why I say I don't judge sorcerers. I don't judge people who go to sorcerers for certain things. In many cases, you have to learn this the hard way. You have to learn that being moral, not manipulating people, being humble, being honest is where the true power lies. But let's talk about the trickster in shamanism and sorcery. Shamans are by nature tricksters, not in the deceitful, malicious sense, but in the sacred, catalytic way. The trickster archetype has always been part of shamanic work because sometimes the only way to crack through someone's defenses is to outwit them. A shaman might use humor, absurdity, misdirection, or even gentle provocation to get a client to see what they've been avoiding. This isn't deception, it's divine strategy. It's a playful dance with truth, where both the shaman and the client know the goal is transformation. When the intention is healing, the trick becomes a tool. And when both parties are in agreement about what they're working towards, this kind of sacred mischief can lead to real breakthroughs. It can. I tell people, hey, I'll try. If I have to trick you into healing, I will. People come to me because they want to be tricked into their own healing. I had to be tricked into my own healing. Anybody who's ever gotten sober, they will tell you we had to be tricked into our own healing. It couldn't have been any other way. Now, sorcerers, on the other hand, will use trickery for an entirely different purpose. Control. The trickster energy in sorcery is self-serving. It's about extracting energy, resources, attention, or loyalty from others, often without their full awareness or consent. Sorcerers might pose as healers, lovers, or leaders, but the end result is often disempowerment and confusion. That's how you know the difference. A shaman's trick makes you stronger and more sovereign. A sorcerer's trick leaves you dependent and depleted. In true shamanic work, the trick leads you back to yourself. In sorcery, the trick leads you further away. One liberates, the other binds. And it's very important to remember that if we're attempting to take a shortcut, if we're attempting to get out of having to go through something spiritually, if we're attempting to bypass, we probably will attract a sorcerer into our life. But if we're willing to face the truth, if we're willing to look where we're wrong, if we're looking to take revenge, we'll get a sorcerer. If we're looking to forgive, we'll get a shaman. I think I messed that up a little bit, but you guys are smart. You guys can figure it out. So if you want shortcuts or to know the secrets of other people, you will attract a sorcerer. So don't be mad when that sorcerer manipulates you and cheats you. You see what I mean? So as long as you're looking for the truth and a direct line for healing, you will attract a shaman. So you don't even have to worry about it. Plus, I've said it before, a truly conscious person cannot be scammed or manipulated. So if you're worried about attracting a sorcerer or a sorcerer trickster into your life, just work on becoming more conscious. And there's the only way to do that is to become present and do your ego work and your shadow work, essentially. And if you're still not exactly sure what you want, or if you want to work with a shaman or a sorcerer, here's how to tell the difference in a short one slide thing. If you're seeking a spiritual guide, healer, or ceremony leader, here are some red flags that suggest sorcery instead of shamanism, no matter what they say. No matter what they say. They can say they're a shaman, and if they're doing these things, they might be a sorcerer. There are some exceptions, okay? But if there are exceptions, ask them about it. Ask them specifically why they do those things. All right, so because I'm not going to tell a shaman how to do their shamanism. I don't know. I can't. And here's another thing I want to add. I'm not going to say that someone who uses drugs and says they are a shaman, I'm not going to say that they're not a shaman. I don't know what the spirits are having them do for specific people. Again, we're going to go with the trickster thing. And I'm going to get into that later on in this slide. But you can ask questions. This light every time looking scary. You can ask questions. Please ask questions of your shaman if any of these things arise. All right. A focus on sex, sexual healing, or erotic energy in ritual. You can ask them if that's something they do, how they feel about it, or if they even say, I'm a sexual healer. I'm gonna say this about this. I say it in the bottom of this. But if somebody comes to me and they say they want healing with their sexuality or anything, I'm probably only going to work with a gay man on that, and it won't involve sex at all. Ask them about drug use. If drug use is presented as essential for spiritual growth, ask them why. Why is drug use essential for spiritual growth? Have them lay their case out completely. If they can make a really good case for it, and it's based on something they've been trained in for decades, then by all means, you might be dealing with a shaman. But a sorcerer is probably going to want to use drugs with you. I mean, if I was a sorcerer, I would want to feed people drugs. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, because if I can't give people a spiritual experience, I'm going to want to simulate a spiritual experience. So if I were a sorcerer, I would probably be feeding people drugs. I mean, that makes sense, because a sorcerer would not really be able to give people a spiritual experience unless it was through those drugs. Whereas a shaman would be able to give you a spiritual experience with or without drugs. So drugs are not necessary. They're really not. Ceremonies that are overly performative, theatrical, or borrowed. There's a lot of theatricality with sorcerers, the robes and the dude. And so, well, let's do that. A lot of false sacredness, theatricality. A shaman is not likely to engage with any of that stuff. Personal branding that centers on being chosen, divine, wiser, or higher than others. I mean, a shaman might be chosen, divine, wiser, or higher, but a shaman is humble enough to want to wave away any of that stuff. A shaman is going to focus on not being special or unique or just, this is what I do. It's kind of like being a priest. It's not that big of a deal. A shaman is likely to say, it's no big deal. I'm a shaman. It's just what's going on with me. It's not that special. It's not unique. We're like janitors for the universe. A shaman is probably going to downplay the fact that they're a shaman, but a sorcerer might want to be known as the chosen, the esteemed, the highest, the radically visionary person. A sorcerer will need all of those words to back up the fake shit that they do. There will also be an attitude of entitlement, secrecy, superiority, or they might withhold stuff saying that you don't understand, that it cannot be understood, that the things I'm speaking about are not to be understood by mere mortals. And I'm only going to speak for myself in this case. I can encourage people to seek the truth. The truth is out there if they want it. I personally cannot tell people the truth because their egos are in the way. Whenever I try to tell people the truth and they haven't done their ego work, it just makes them mad. And I'm not trying to piss people off. So I encourage people to love the truth, find the truth. The truth is there. Nobody holds the truth away from other people. You can understand the truth. The thing about the truth is that it's easy to understand as long as you strip away all of that falseness. But the sorcerer is going to rely on that falseness to be there to confuse and divert from their true motivations. And a lot of times the true motivation of a sorcerer is sex, money, power. That's the true motivation. So by them saying, you wouldn't understand my motivation, they're probably correct in that, because they might say they're about your spiritual healing, but in reality, they just want to get in your pants. And if you understood that they wanted to get in your pants, you would have nothing to do with them whatsoever. That's why they need all of this stuff. Because without that stuff, what's exposed? Just some horny middle-aged man with a direct line to a drug dealer. That's what you get. That's pretty much it after all the theatricality is gone. So in contrast, a real shaman may seem quiet, humble, and even boring by comparison, but they'll be grounded, honest, and fiercely protective of the healing space. Now, this is something I want to talk about. Some shamans may engage in healing shame around sexuality, and others may work with drug addicts, but their practices will not be overtly sexual or involve drug use. You cannot use sex to heal sexual shame, nor can you get sober by taking more drugs. A shaman will avoid sexual relationships with the people that they help, while a sorcerer might use sex as a modality. And so, like I said earlier, like, let's say a woman comes to me with she wants sexual healing, or she has shame around her sexuality. I immediately will refer her to a female shaman without question. Women do not come to me with your sexual problems, because in the past, women have came to me, they had romantic designs on me. And I was like, no. Now I've learned my lesson. No. Now, I said I would work with gay men on their sexuality, but I would also work on straight men, because I am not sexually attracted to men right now. I mean, I think they're lovely, but I'm in love with my husband. So if a straight man came to me, he would not be interested in having sex with me. I would not be interested in having sex with him. And the most I would do is have a conversation with them. I probably would not want to be in a closed one-on-one space. I would probably want it to be over Zoom or over the phone. I wouldn't want to be in a space with another man or another woman by myself talking about sex, or even being partially clothed or anything, unless it was for a very specific person that would be negotiated to death before I even did it. It wouldn't even be something like that. But again, that would be on a case-by-case basis and negotiated specifically with the other person for a specific purpose. Like I talked about the body positivity thing I did with the guy earlier. I'm very unlikely to do that kind of thing with anybody today. But if somebody wants a sexual healing, or if they have problems with sex, I would tell them to go to somebody who specializes in that. My specialties help people recover from drugs and alcohol. I can help gay people learn how to not hate themselves for being gay, which might involve a little bit of talk about sexuality. But generally, I would stay away from anything like that, any nudity, any type of thing, unless we were at the gym together. Like I can't say I would never be in it, because I'm thinking about times that I would be naked with other men, and it would be at the gym or in the locker room. But I generally would try to avoid that shit, especially in regards to shamanism. Although I did take somebody to the gym with me years ago, and I showed them how to work out and go in the steam room and all of that. So really, it's just a case-by-case basis, but it must be negotiated. And I'm being very clear about this, because a lot of sorcerers are out there to seduce people into having sex with them. And you have to be really, you have to know what you're looking for. I don't want people to fall in this trap, nor do I want people to fall in the trap to thinking that they can pretend to be a sorcerer if they want to have sex with people. Hey, there's a much easier way to have sex with people. Just ask them to have sex with you. You don't have to pretend to be a shaman or a sorcerer or anything like that. They'll either say yes or no. But I know there's a lot more to it than that. I'm probably a little bit more overly cautious about this stuff due to the things that happened to me in the past. But in this day and age, I would rather be overly cautious about it than being just willy-nilly, like not caring who gets hurt. And I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to put myself in a situation where a woman or a man would accuse me of sexual impropriety. I take that shit very, very seriously. And I think every spirit worker and shaman would take that very seriously. I'm just not going to put myself in a situation. Generally, I'm probably not going to be alone in a room with a woman or a man in this type of a capacity, in a healing capacity. Usually Merrick is going to be there with me, or something like that. So it's very unlikely to be in that. That's just good spiritual practice. That's professional. That keeps everybody honest and focused on the task. Plus, I do not want a woman to think that that I have a romantic interest in her. It's just not going to happen. It's just not. Final thoughts. Know who you're working with. Both shamans and sorcerers exist and both serve a purpose, but don't confuse the two. Sorcery is seductive. It's the spiritual equivalent of junk food, quick, cheap, and leaves you emptier than before. A shaman won't give you what your wounded self wants. They'll help you remember who you really are so you can finally heal. And healing, unlike manipulation, cannot be faked. While shamans walk the path of healing and humility, sorcerers explore the raw terrain of desire, ambition, and will. A sorcerer is often a wounded visionary, someone who refuses to wait for the world to change and instead attempts to bend it by force. Sorcerers can be brilliant, magnetic, and fiercely creative. They expose the hunger in the collective psyche for power, validation, control, and immediacy. While their methods may be dangerous, their existence reveals what is broken in society. A mature sorcerer, one who's become aware of their influence, can become an important ally in dismantling systems of manipulation. They know the game because they've played it. And if they choose morality over ego, they can help others break the spell too. I know a couple of quite popular, somewhat famous, gay spirit workers who are very, very sexual. And I see this kind of thing playing out in their life. They are chronic masturbators. They are chronic sex addicts. And they are promoting this in their groups and communities. They are engaging in sorcery, essentially. And that's okay. I mean, any type of OnlyFans creator is engaging in a type of sorcery, if you want to get right down to it. But at the same time, we don't call these people out, because if somebody is engaging in sorcery, they don't know until it hurts them. They won't know until it hurts other people. So when I tell you that I'm being very careful about negotiating these things nowadays, I have made mistakes in the past and I have learned lessons. Like there was one time that this guy wanted to come over to my apartment. It's like 8 years ago, when I was still a baby shaman, and he wanted to come over, and it became clear that he was not there for shamanic healing. He was there for sex. And I needed to develop a way to avoid people like that. Sometimes people can be very attracted to their healers. And I was completely unaware of this. I thought he was straight. I was like, what? What? So you have to learn this, I think, by hook or by crook. I got into some thorny situations because I had loose boundaries with people. I was like, well, when we're done being clients, then we can be hookup partners. Or you were a former hookup partner of mine. I'll help you with some shamanic stuff. No, it's got to be clean. Like, you can't be sleeping with the people that you help, and the people that you sleep with, you can't be healing with them. You can't be helping them. Especially if you're a shaman, and especially if you're in this line of work. Now, some of you might think, well, what about Merrick? I'm married to Merrick, but also he's learning how to be a shaman. I'm his elder. I'm not like his mentor or his coach, but he's learning how to be a shaman. He's largely on his own path. I'm there to assist him when he needs it, but he's kind of, right now he's having a hard time coming to terms with it. Like, it's hard to realize that you're becoming a shaman. It's difficult to realize that you're becoming a shaman. However, the path of sorcery is going to be like, come on, let's go. let's go. Let's do some drugs. Let's have some sex. Let's have some fun. And I know I talk a lot about sex and drugs in regards to sorcery, but that's the main reason why people get engaged in sorcery in the first place, for sex and drugs. And maybe in a couple episodes, I will talk more about like proper sexual healing, like what that might look like. But on tomorrow's episode, I will be talking about shamanism and how good it is for men. Essentially, how shamanism is a good spiritual practice for men who want to be really good men in this culture. So thank you for watching this episode. I hope you have a better sense of what a shaman is and what a sorcerer is. And if you are a sorcerer and you're kind of sick of the lifestyle, it's a lot of work. Being a sorcerer is a lot of work. I mean, being a shaman is a lot of work. It's all a lot of work. Everything's a lot of work. People have to work. But for those sorcerers out there who are ready to make a change towards truth, love, honesty, sobriety, and achieving true power, let this video be a sign from God. And don't forget that we love you. Yes, we do.